Today's learning target is I can graph equations. Today you'll be asked to graph equations. So in this case, you can see that I'm asked to graph y equals 2x plus 1. When I do this, I create a table that looks like this. And this table has my input, which will be my x. It has the rule, which is my equation, 2x plus 1. It has the output, so when I solve it for y, that's what I'll get. And then here would be my coordinate. I'm going to start by picking 4 numbers that I can put into my input. So I'm just going to start with 0 for my input. Okay, so then I'm going to place that in the x, so that would be 0 plus 1. That's going to equal y. So now I figured this out. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 would be 1. So in this case, my x is 0, and my y is 1. Okay, so there's 1. I'm going to do another one here. I'm just going to go 1. So I'd go 2, solve that, times it by 1, plus 1. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So my y, my output would be 3. So when x is 1, y is 3. So that's my next pair of coordinates. Okay, so I'm just going to go 2 here. Alright, so now I go 2 and I just place the x in there, plus 1. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So when x is 2, y is 5. And maybe I'll do a negative 1 here. Okay, so 2 and negative 1 is in my x, plus 1. Okay, so 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And negative 2 plus 1 would be a negative 1. Put that in here. So my ordered pair is negative 1, negative 1. So our last step now is we want to graph these 4 points. Remember that when we're graphing these points, the first number always tells us the x-coordinate, and the second number always tells us the y-coordinate. So we can see on our coordinate plane here that the x-axis is labeled. So this is where all the x numbers, they'll fall on this axis, and the y numbers will fall on this axis. So I start off 0 on the x-axis. So 0 is going to be right there. And now on the y-axis, I'm going to go positive 1. So I'm going to go up 1. So I place my dot right there. Now on the iPad it's a little tough, but to get it exact, but you'll be exact on your assignment today. Now look at your next point. We're at 1 on the x-axis. So 1 would be right here, and then I see it's 3. 1, 2, 3. It's going to go right there. So I place my point at 1, 3. Okay, again, it's not perfect on the iPad. It's tough to do. Now I go 2 on the x-axis. So 1, 2, and 5 is going to come up here. So I'm going to place it right there. So it's 2, 5. And then my last one is negative 1, negative 1. So negative 1 on the x-axis is right here. Negative 1 is right there on the y-axis. Okay, so I place my dot right there. Oops, I got to move that up a little bit. So, yeah, that one's not perfect. So this right here is how I would graph this equation. So in your assignment today, when you're asked to graph an equation, you should create this table right here, and then use graph paper, and then you'll place those points, just like I did here. When we have an equation, like we had here, where the points, when you graph them, create a straight line, just like this, it's called a linear equation. And the word linear has the word line in it, you notice. And so it's an equation that creates a line. Now, the neat thing about a linear equation is it will show us all of the answers for this equation. So here, let me show you what I mean. If we take a look at this line and we follow it to this point right there, I'm going to make a dot right there. Now, the coordinates for this point are 3, 7, because it falls at 3 on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on the y-axis. Okay, so this is x is 3, and y is 7. So what that tells us is in this linear equation, If x in here is 3, then the y is going to be 7. And I could do that at any point. I could do it right here. And I could see, okay, if x is negative 2, then y is going to be negative 3. Okay, and I could follow this line all the way through and it will work for every point.